Hello there! Let's talk about the Mustang GTD and whether it is the new Corvette C7 ZR1. Now that might be a very weird thing to ask, but hear me out. So first of all, when I saw the press release for the Ford Mustang GTD, I thought, wow, that is really cool. It's got to be one of the most exciting product releases from Ford for a long time. But is it even a Mustang? Now that might seem a very weird question to ask because, well, obviously it's a Mustang. Ford calls it Mustang GTD. It looks like a Mustang and it sounds like a Mustang. Obviously it's a Mustang, but not so fast. Traditionally, the Mustang has always had the engine and gearbox in the front and a strut suspension. The Mustang GTD, when you start to look underneath the skin, looks nothing like a Mustang. I think to improve the track performance of this Mustang so that their CEO Jim Farley would never lose in a track race versus other auto bosses, as he put it, Ford moved the gearbox, placed the gearbox all the way at the back of the vehicle, and moved the engine significantly rearwards to use up the freed up space, so that the engine is now sitting behind the front axle. Obviously, this is significantly better for performance, especially on track, because the vehicle's in acceleration, you've got a lot more rearward weight bias, so the rear tires have a lot more traction, and when you're braking, all four tires are a lot more evenly loaded than, let's say, a Mustang GT500 from the last generation, the S550 generation, where the both gearbox and engine were sitting around the front axle, because the Mustang GTD has a significant weight distribution advantage over the GT500. So just from off the bat, even without the wider tires and the lighter weight and all the added aero, the Mustang GTD is going to have it's just starting from a way better starting point to deliver on-track performance than, say, the GT500. So it would have been very easy for Ford to style this vehicle quite differently so that it doesn't look like a Mustang and called it something quite different. But then, obviously, you have to remember that the Mustang is the only car that Ford still sells. All the other cars in their lineup have been replaced by trucks and SUVs. And so it is important, if they're spending this amount of effort and money on developing a new product, like the Mustang GTD, that it provides the halo effect to the rest of the regular Mustang lineup. So why is it actually very similar to a Corvette C7 ZR1? Well, to start with, it's got the Supercharged V8, but that's probably the least important of the similarities. So as mentioned, there's the Transaxle gearbox, which required probably a complete tear-up of the vehicle body structure. There's the more rear replacement of the engine, as discussed. And also extremely important for on-track performance is the double wishbone front suspension. So as mentioned, almost all prior Ford Mustang models had strut suspension, which is great for cost and packaging. Because if you look here, by having double wishbone suspension, there is the inboard attachment points which you have to package for, and that starts to eat into your engine bay space. But because the engine has been moved backwards so much, it became possible to do this. Otherwise, you could probably only do this with a an EcoBoost version. Well, so the straight inline four EcoBoost version of the Ford Mustang, which wouldn't make any sense. It's not the performance model. So this was a way to have the fat V8, but still have double wishbone suspension. Also similar to the Corvette C7 ZR1, the Ford Mustang GTD has semi-active dampers. Now, these are of a different manufacturer and different technology. The Corvette had Magneride semi-active dampers, which are of the pressure control type, which is similar to if you change the preload that you apply on the shim stack of a passive damper. So imagine changing the amount of preload so that the blow-off pressure of that shim stack is going up and down. So that in essence is what Magneride is adjusting. With the Ford Mustang GTD, it is the Multimatic active spool valve, semi-active spool valve dampers that is used, where they use a stepper motor to change the amount of slot opening that they have in their DSV damper. And so that is in essence changing the orifice size. So there is also that's actually quite similar to some other semi-active dampers on the market. And if you try to think about the passive damper equivalent, that is changing the amount of low speed bleed, so changing the orifice size in your shim stack. So you're not changing the preload on the shim stack, you're changing the amount of the hole through which the oil is able to flow. So the blow off pressure remains constant, but you're changing how at what speed you get to your blow off pressure. So the important question: will it beat the Germans? Because Jim Farley, the Ford CEO, said, "Well, I'll take on all other whichever other auto boss, bring the best that you have. You know, I'm not afraid of any of you when I'm driving the Mustang GTD." He's probably got a good point. So I think this is a hard. This one's hard to predict. So they did mention that they're targeting a lap time around the Nürburgring of less than 7 minutes. And that is roughly what the Corvette C7 ZR1 was able to achieve as well. So although the Corvette never officially achieved it, I think segment-wise, like in terms of best segments, it added up to roughly a below 7 minute Nürburgring lap time. Now the Ford Mustang GTD does have a bit more power than the Corvette. Don't know about the weight. It may be due to all the carbon fiber body panels and so on. It might even end up lighter than the Corvette. For sure, it's got wider tires than the Corvette. And so all of this adds up to maybe the Ford being quite a bit faster than the Corvette C7 ZR1. Plus, there's also another car among the fastest cars to lap the Nürburgring and also other racetracks, which is using a very similar formula, and that is the AMG GT Black Series. So this car also had a front mid, a forced induction V8 with a transaxle, significant amounts of aero, and I think, yeah, by having sufficient power, it was able to, I think, be the record holder for a while. I think intrinsically, though, I would still expect. So intrinsically, I would expect the 911 to be able to do more with less power. So although the GT3 RS only has like 520 or whatever horsepower. It is definitely, I wouldn't say that it's the underdog when you compare it to the Mustang GTD, because of that engine placement at the rear, the very light weight of the car, and just, you know, how well the 911 has been honed over the years. So it'll be interesting to see. I think the Mustang GTD, if there was ever a Mustang to beat, to be able to beat the 911 GT3 or GT2 RS, it would be the Mustang, yeah, the Mustang GTD. With that said, I think starting from a mid-front transaxle base platform, you're still starting at a slight disadvantage compared to a rear engine layout, rear or mid-engine layout. But then Ford has thrown so much at the Mustang GTD, the crazy aero, the you know, all the carbon fiber bits, the crazy wide tires. It's a 325 tire up front and the 345 in the rear. So could Ford do it? Maybe. I'll be interested to see what the official lap time ends up being. What do you think? Let me know in the comments whether you think the Mustang GTD can beat these two cars on the screen. Hope it was interesting. Until next time.